In this video, I am going to simplify this question around which foods to prioritize when you're in midlife, especially when you're in perimenopause and you're noticing that your body is changing so rapidly to the point where your diet, your nutrition is not able to give you the support and the relief that you so desperately need. Now, this question of which foods to prioritize, there's really two other questions within it. There's a question of what specifically to eat and how to eat. So the what is very straightforward. It's going to be whole foods, right? Doesn't matter where we look in the world, doesn't matter what research we look at. The consensus is always if you actually want to thrive, you got to eat more whole foods. You can eat processed food, but that's more survival food. If we're talking about truly thriving, always 100% whole food. So that answers that question. The other part, which is the how to eat, that's where things start to get more confusing and overwhelming because we start getting into a lot of diet trends and rules and things of that nature. So, what I actually want to do is kind of give you a framework here for two different types of people because typically most of us fall in one or two buckets. You're either somebody who in midlife is now learning for the first time, or maybe for the first time in a long time, you're learning how to start incorporating more whole foods into your routine. So you're either that person or you're person number two who has had the history of eating whole foods, but for whatever reason, things are still not going all that great now. So let's start with the first case where you are coming into midlife having to build that muscle of eating more whole foods. And for me, the most important thing you can do is, from my perspective, is don't worry about the how. Don't worry about which diet rule to follow or not follow. Just commit to eating more whole foods because that alone is going to do a lot for you because you're giving your body more nutrition, and that is always a good thing. The how is not as important yet because actually, the how will get revealed to you the more you eat those foods. Your body will tell you because there's one thing that the body is great at is it will let you know when it likes something, and even more so when it doesn't like something, right? Because when something's not working, maybe you won't sleep great, or maybe you will feel bloated, or something else will happen. Maybe your period can go crazy. I had this last year, or for the first time in my life, I was like, let me try a more carnivore type diet just for the hell of it, right? And I did it one time for like, almost 4 full weeks after my last period had ended. And the period I got after that lasted forever. I went on for 3 weeks. I never went back to it because I was like, yep, even though I am not vegetarian or vegan, I eat mostly plants, overwhelmingly so. And so my system clearly was just like, this is not doing it for us. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. 3 week period, don't want to experience this again. So that's an example, right? Your body will tell you. I still kept some things from that experiment, though there was, I still kind of upped my consumption of animal products a little bit, but I didn't go to the extreme that I did based on the sort of the template, right? I found an expert online and I kind of followed their template. Their template was way too excessive in terms of the animal protein for me personally. So just do that first, right? Just do that first and then listen to your body, and you will start to notice that maybe when you eat a certain food in the morning, it feels one way. When you eat it in the afternoon or the evening, it feels another way. And that will start to guide you as to the how and whether you should intermittent fast or not intermittent fast, and whether you should do keto or not, or vegan keto or not. Like all of that will be revealed to you over time as you just experiment. Okay. It's really important. And again, you don't have to worry about should it also be plant based or not, because that's another big one where people are like, should I be plant based? Should I go vegan or vegetarian? Your body will tell you. I have eaten different ways throughout my own life. I've never been fully vegan or anything like that, but I've come close sometimes. I have, for many, probably the last decade, ate mostly pescatarian, which is basically just fish as my primary animal protein. And I was also eating eggs and I avoided everything else. But then last year, I got back into meats, mainly just grass-fed beef, some turkey. I'm still not back. Every now and then I'm back on chicken, but this has been a progressive thing, and there's been lots of different reasons why I have made some of these changes. In the past, when I was training to be a yoga teacher, I definitely pulled back from eating a lot more meat, simply because when you get into studying the yogic tradition and understanding different things around animals and also the energy, like that energy at the time of death is something we talked about, in my yoga teacher training, and what it's like to eat, this animal that was basically like surprised, right, by just being killed unexpectedly. So that definitely affected me. So for a while, I pulled back from eating, I would say, pretty much anything that walks on land, and just stuck to fish. But again, this is just, these are the mechanics of our brain, right? But that was a personal decision at that time. So I understand that there will also be times where, just for personal reasons, you might want to go one way or another. And the only advice there is always, you still want to make sure that whatever choice you make, you're always supporting your body. And when your body starts to pull you towards a different direction, please listen. Please listen, okay? Because the body knows always. It's on your side. So that is for the person who is really, brand new to eating whole foods. Now, let's say you've had a history of eating whole foods, you eat healthy, and then again things are changing in midlife, or somehow what you were doing before was not working. Really, all that's just pointing potentially to the fact that your body needs different types. So, because sometimes we get into a habit, we get very comfortable, and we eat a narrow set of foods for decades, and we ignore some, right? So this is the opportunity again to be like, all right, what does the body want from me? And there is so much food on this planet. None of us have tasted all of it. So there is no such thing as I've already eaten all of it, right? I'm pretty sure most of us will go to the grocery store and look around and be like, I tend to just buy these things and I avoid these things, right? So this is that time now to be like, well, let's expand our definition. Let's expand our that buffet of whole foods that we typically eat. What else can we bring in? Because sometimes also, even in eating whole foods, we still will put some restrictions and maybe still limit things based on like carb content and other things. If you've been doing that, this could be a good time in life to reevaluate that, because maybe just like with me, where it was like I was eating whole foods, but I was eating less of the animal products, and I could get away with that for a while, but then at some point I was like, nah, I feel this need to go back. But my rule was, it's got to be 100% grass fed, 95% grass fed beef. I'm not going to be eating, all the other nonsense that's out there in terms of meat, because there's all kinds of nonsense in our meat. So that was my requirement. It's like, I'm okay eating the meat, but let's just make sure it's clean. Let's just make sure it's as it is as ideal for human consumption as possible, right? So that's my recommendation. If you see that your healthy diet from before isn't working, is first ask yourself, in your healthy diet, did you still have some restrictions that maybe came from diet culture? Because one thing is, once we hit midlife, a lot of that diet culture nonsense does not work in our favor, because diet culture is about deprivation. This time of life where the body is shifting, it's all about, as we're opening up, like as our own bodies are opening up into a new phase, it also requires and demands that we also open up, even in terms of how we approach food and how we experience food. So you've got to bring in more things, maybe bring in more flavors. One big thing, and if we live in the West, for a lot of us, is often we don't eat enough bitter foods, right? Because our taste buds are so accustomed to sweet and other things, but bitter is often the thing that is neglected, and that is one that is so essential for supporting the liver, for example, right? So this is the time to really play, right? And I'm emphasizing playing and experimenting, because that is actually the fastest path to knowing what works for your body. It's not sitting around and doing a ton of research and listening to every conflicting study that's out there, right? And None of these studies are bad, right? A lot of these studies are out there. They're all perfectly done studies, but there's always the unknown of, well, you are you. So your trillions of cells, are they going to react the exact same way? You can have two women who are in perimenopause who have the exact same symptoms on the outside, but their history as humans on this planet, whether it's their medical history, their emotional history, their trauma history, there's so much stuff. We can't, nobody can do the math. Nobody can predict for sure how it's going to go. So why not just give yourself a break and just go straight to the source, which is your body, and just, say, all right, I'm going to try some new things. I'm going to move some things around. And my body will let me know because it always does. The body does not fail. It is very reliable in that way. It will let you know what to eat. And then that solves the problem. The other thing I would say is also, just to wrap up lastly, would be around, I would say, our perception and our language that we use, right? So, for example, we can talk about, like, this diet is better than the other. We can talk about, like, a Mediterranean, should I be on the Mediterranean diet because we've done some research that shows certain things, or should I be on some sort of blue zone diet, and one thing for us to remember, which I think is really, really important, is that we have put the label Mediterranean diet, right? Like, in the West, we created that label Mediterranean diet. For the people who live over there, they're just eating whatever the hell is available to them. They're just eating what they have, right? They don't. So we've taken it, put a label, put it on the pedestal. We've written pros and cons about it, but for the people in those regions, it's just food. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that, again, at the end of the day, when you step out, just go out and just say, I'm just going to buy food, real food. I'm just going to do that because that's all the people who live in all those regions that we study and write articles and papers about. That's just all they did. Just look around them and say, what do I have available that's whole and fresh? Let me just eat that. We don't have to make it a whole lot more complicated because there's enough to think about as your body's changing. There's no point adding additional layers that are not really bringing true value other than maybe just satisfying the brain's need to sometimes overanalyze and dig into things. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share with you today. And I also wanted to let you know that I have actually just added in a whole new set of recipes. So I have my new community that I've been talking to you about in my videos. It's called the Beyond Estrogen Collective. And I just added in 47 new recipes today, covering all kinds of different things, right? And the whole goal is to make this collection of recipes something that works for everyone. So again, because I am not advocating any one thing other than eat whole food. You can thrive on plant-based, you can thrive on carnivore, there's people thriving on all kinds of things. Your body will let you know. So this collection has lots of different recipes to cater to different needs, dairy-free, gluten-free, and every month I add new recipes to the collection. Okay, every single month there's new recipes coming in. So today is what, June 1st? Kick this off, and I will keep adding on the first of every month so that for anybody who's a member of that community, you always have fresh new recipes to play with, because that is really what makes it sustainable, is having a collection of recipes that you can lean on depending on what you feel like that day. I've got 20-minute recipes in there. I've got some meal prep recipes for the person who maybe just wants to, like, meal prep on the weekend and then just reheat throughout the week. And then I've got lots of other collections, but it's really just meant to be something that is practical and usable for, for our real lives. Okay, so if you're interested in getting your hands on those recipes, I will leave a link to the community in the description section so you can come in and try it out for yourself. And of course, you can get to connect with other women who are also just on this journey and also looking to just simplify this whole midlife experience, because it doesn't have to be as chaotic as they insist it has to be. So on that note, if you found this video helpful, I would love it if you gave it a thumbs up and shared it with anybody else who would benefit from this information. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, and bye-bye.